some of these I have.
Yeah, I looked at it.
Okay, and when you look at these are things I asked Mr. Messina, and the gentleman's right here, so when I see right here, you know, for a background check, who's doing these background checks? I ask you as a chief,
On who?
you need your
Like,
committees.
for some people, we cannot give background checks to. We can give back, and the background check, like the background check that my people take are much different than anyone else for the city takes. There's a lot of laws regarding background checks. We can do a minimal background check on volunteers. But a minimal,
But right.
and you can't, and as far as I know, with even labor law, you can only do background checks on certain people if you offer them a job. You can't do it until you offer them a job.
So then, I filled a lot of these out through the years. There never was anything about a background check, and now I see popped up right here, a background check. So this individual, give me his date, give me where he's born, I can go in as a citizen, because I got this here, or as a counselor, as public record, and you know what? That's wrong. So I don't know how that got put in there when it's never been in there before, because I can show you, I've been on, like I said, I've been on a lot of committees. I have 20 years of being here, and I've been on a lot of them.
I remember it being on.
Okay, on yours, how many years have you been doing this?
Well, that's not.
Well,
I'm
no,
saying,
that's
but I
what-
remember it being on mine, so I don't
right,
know.
when did you,
when
when
that
did you,
came up.
when did you do this?
When did I do that? I've done
When?
more than one of those.
Okay, but when did you first
So
start,
I think the question here
is
and
should that be on
is, should
there
it
or
be
not?
on there? And perhaps what we need to do is identify it as an item we would like to look into, either as a subcommittee, and the administration committee can look into that. Is what is our application? Does it need updated? Are there things on there that aren't appropriate or unenforceable?
Yeah.
Like background checks that we couldn't do anyway because it's not appropriate for that committee. And so we could assign that to the admin committee and ask them, that would be one of their tasks. Because as we move forward and talk about committees, that's one of the problems, is that we have committees and we don't assign them tasks. We don't know what their purpose is, and yet we don't need to do all that ourselves. That's really a great
But
point.
we all did,
Yeah.
in the committees.
Mhm.
You know, I've been in committees, I've been in the state before Kevin came here, I was in the safety committee for the police, you know. A lot of years I've been doing it, and then, we always, and Mr. Hampton, we may never got along that good, but you know what, Mr. Hampton, as the mayor,
Mhm.
ask everybody, every time we go to a council meeting, and I got 20 years for one of these things, and I went 7 years ago. All these committees was brought forward, and we got to hear from the committees.
You mean as far as reporting back to
Yes,
council?
and then we have not.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons why we're looking at committees, and we will start doing that, so that committees report back. Those reports will be at the first meeting of the month, because committees will report back to council at them, so that we know what's happening
And who is on the committee? See, that's where we have,
committees.
That's a good topic to bring up in our work session when we talk about vacancies and
When
all
we
that
talk
stuff.
about
Can we go back to Kevin on that, what you said? Were you
applications.
saying that we cannot do background checks on volunteers?
On volunteers, we probably could.
We could.
But some of these committees, that's pushing it a little bit for volunteers, because there's a lot of legal ramifications of background. In fact, my department doesn't do the background checks on them anyway. There's certain ones that the NCIC, which is the FBI who runs people, certain ones we can do, certain ones we can't.
Can you enlighten us a little bit why we can't?
So there's a lot of them that actually Oregon State Police, even the police department, we have to pay money to have them do it. We can't go down to our terminal downstairs and do it. It's
Okay.
not appropriate for us to do that. And it's called LEDs,
Uh-huh,
law
yeah,
enforcement
I'm
data
familiar
system.
with
They
that.
tell us what we can and can't do.
Okay,
So that's all a Michael thing. She has all the training in that.
so let me throw you an example, and I'm trying not to go down a rabbit hole, but
Please don't go right down rabbit holes.
library vacancies, I'm just an example. Let's say we wanna do a background check on library seats, on the vacancies. Can you do that? And my thought process is, that's a place where children is, we want to know.
That would be a
accessible.
touchy one, and I would say that we'd have to seek legal advice on that.
Okay, 'cause to
Okay.
me, that's a really
Because the people
important.
that work in the library, absolutely, I totally believe they have to have a background check, because they could be
Okay.
around kids.
Yeah,
The people on the library board,
Don't know what the
That's
committee.
but we have other committees that are working with youth programs.
if they're around kids, they have to have a background check.
Okay, I mean, even counselors, we have, the high schoolers are required to attend council meetings. So,
That's a public
how
setting.
about somebody on a budget committee, which is dealing with the budget, the money, Should they have a background check?
I can't answer that question.
I don't know. Those are all really good questions, and we'll have to look at those, look at that. I mean, I think it's just really important that we don't ask for, put something on the application, and
That's gonna put us in trouble.
it's either gonna put us in trouble or
But that's,
Done.
I don't know that.
Done. Do
Yeah.
counselors need to have a background check?
I think so.
Not that I know of.
I'm willing for a background check.
I think they should.
Yeah, but they're not required,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they're elected.
White out what's on there.
Okay, so,
They're elected.
I don't
so
want-
this
We're
is
not working with those
overview.
people that have felony convictions.
True, I did read that,
So,
yeah.
Why
Okay,
don't
you-
you why you know?
Well, the day you were.
All right, counselors, so, as a summing it up, Don and Lauren,
Yeah, thanks.
That's okay with you?
Yeah.
Don and Lauren. Guys are such talkers. So, as to sum this up, we're gonna put this on a topic to discuss at our work session when we talk about committees,
Mhm.
right?
Good.
Okay. All right.
We're having fun. aren't we?
Committee with the requirements.
Back to the code of conduct,
Back to the
is
code of
this a
conduct.
resolution? This right
It
here?
does not say.
It was not a
this.
resolution.
It was sent to Dawn Kenyon when she was a counselor from Louis Gomez as a resolution in the email. If you read the email that she
Well,
wrote,
I'm not worried about what Don Kenyon got as a counselor and whether it was a resolution or not.
But
What I
it was
am worried
stated
about
in
whether or
minutes.
not this is, so, you know,
this right here,
yeah.
that's what I'm talking about.
Was it ever a resolution?
It was
It's a
stated,
resolution.
yeah.
It
that's
does
what-
not, it doesn't say it's a resolution
But it was
anywhere.
supposed to
It's
be.
not identified as being one.
But it was in the minutes that it was.
Okay, back up. This may not have been a resolution. It may have been turned into a resolution, and that's what we can determine. So I'm not gonna know that from this piece of paper.
Yeah.
So we'll have to look at the code of, the codification book and see if there is a resolution in there for it.
But it was in the minutes.
Then if it was in the minutes, then yes. So you're referring to information I don't have. So I can't tell you that.
Okay. I was under the assumption we all read that email from her, that was, I look at the minutes as a formal document of record of what happened, and this was made a resolution at that time. in the
Okay.
minutes.
Then I am not
Okay.
saying you're wrong. I'm just saying this isn't a resolution.
We can, when we find out, it would be good to have that
That's
on
my-
the document.
that's
That's
my-
by council resolution.
And
at
that is
such
my
such a
point,
date.
that's why I'm bringing this up, is
There you
because
go.
this should have the resolution number on it, and it does not. And my next question is, if this has been changed from what we have today, from what this currently was supposed to be a resolution, has that been brought forward to council? So for instance, if there was a new code of conduct,
Was it, well, I don't know. We'll have to
Okay.
research it. I mean, it's something I can't tell you.
So, even with all of that information, if we look at changing it, if we change it, we change it, and
We have
then
to,
we
yeah.
can say that it replaces and then the title.
Right.
And we can kind of skip and bypass going and see
So-
when and what happened.
Right,
Where and save ourselves some time.
right. So we have the code, we have this, and it's well worth looking through, annotating to determine what you think is appropriate, what isn't appropriate, what you think isn't missing out of there. But then, you know, we also have, you know, how do we proceed as a council, which is different than this. You know, what kind of things we do. So the question is, I saw Paul looking at his watch, it's 5:30, are about ready to take a break?
No,
Okay.
So, you know, as I was looking through all of this, I mean, there's definitely some pieces that are missing that I think are important for our group. So some of the things that I identified, is that there's no, within any of this, there's no real clear process for, when somebody submits an application for one of our committees or something that comes before us. So there's nothing, there's no process for that.
A process for applications for
Yeah,
committees?
so, I'm looking at
Is that what you're saying?
So I have, I'll go through these. So, some of the other things I identified was missing posting requirements. I couldn't find anything about that. So if we have a vacancy
So,
and we post that, there's nothing within any of the stuff that I reviewed between the charter,
oh, so you're not talking about just this?
No, I'm not
Okay,
talking
good.
about this,
Good,
just
good,
this,
good.
I'm talking about in general.
Yes.
There's a lot of things that are missing and,
And that's why,
and I think we need to really look at that
Yeah.
and create a new resolution and really.
and I would really encourage everybody to take some time to read what the city of Crestwell has. The city of Cottage Grove also has a really good rules, to see what we are missing, because we are missing pieces, which I think if we had would really have been helpful in
Yes.
past times. in history. And moving forward, we wanna make sure we take care of that. So, this isn't something that we can tackle today.
No.
But there are a few things that I do wanna talk about today, that I'm hoping that as a council, we can kinda just wrap our heads around as far as, the way we conduct, not ourselves, but just conduct the meeting. You know, and, I wanna make sure that we're, in agreement as far as, having the two meetings, one being a work session, the first in the month, and the second one being a business meeting. That doesn't preclude any business we might have to have done.
So only one
because of
business
timing.
meeting a month?
So a business meeting would be the last one, and one. And then the first meeting would be mostly a work session, a time for presentations,
So-
a time for like the city engineer to
So,
come.
so
that
if
kind of
you
thing.
did, let me see if I follow.
Yeah.
So if you had a meeting made, before you had that meeting, why can't you have a work session to discuss if it's a minor thing that's gonna go fly right through it?
That's another way to do it.
Because the mayor, you know, I've been to a few of these, watched a lot of it.
Mhm.
And a lot of times, different towns, exactly, the mayor, you know, which, I think you have that position, the mayor brings this and calls a work session before
Right,
the main council meeting.
and that is another way of doing it.
Of seeing, so if it's a minor thing, at least you can familiarize yourself with what the problem
Well,
or what.
And that is one of the reasons for doing a first meeting as a work session, to go over agenda items. It's also an opportunity for council to bring to that meeting, these are things I would like to look at have put on the agenda. The council can then talk about it informally and determine whether we do want to bring it up as an agenda item, whether we want to ask the city administrator to gather more information and present it to us at the next meeting, whether we don't think it's worth being an agenda item. And it helps us use a work session and a business meeting so that we can get through the things we need to and not combine the two. I mean, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense. Some cities do meet like an hour ahead of time or half an hour ahead of time to review and have an agenda session. So they review the agenda, talk about any issues that are on it, questions you have about the pieces that are on the agenda, and then they move into the meeting. I kind of feel like this council is so new that having one meeting in the first of the month that is dedicated to talking about agenda items, learning about things we need to learn about, asking people to come in and talk to us, doing training during that time, whether that be like online or having someone from LCOG come up and talk to us about a specific issue, public meetings laws or whatever it is, that would be beneficial. That's just an idea. That's one way to do it.
Okay, this first agenda that we got, I presume you made this?
Yeah.
Did you do this agenda?
I did. Did I what?
Did you make this agenda?
Yes. Well, yes, I did.
I mean, you.
The form of it.
But you got this, you put this agenda together. Are you the individual that did this?
Yes. Rick filled in the details.
So she laid the format.
I laid out the format
But
and
Rick-
said this is how I would like to see the agenda go and just the way the meeting runs. And then Rick filled it in. So that was just, I mean, while the mayor runs the meeting, it is up to council to determine agenda too. It's actually up to the city administrator, according to our charter, to fill in the agenda as far as this is what we're going to be talking about. And then any counselor can add to that agenda, but there needs to be some rules behind that says, if you have something you know you want on an agenda, then make sure that you get it to the city administrator 10 days before, so that there's time to prepare the proper information, and then get it on to the agenda. It's not, I don't think it's wise, and I don't think it's respectful to throw things onto agenda at the last minute. Either staff won't have time to prepare, council won't have time to determine it, we'll have to discuss it, take up time during that, when we could perhaps do it a different way. So I'm looking for a way to educate our council, because we're new, a way for us to take the time to really think about agenda items, ask questions about what they mean, bring up details, and then move to the next meeting to actually look at that agenda bill on the meeting agenda and pass it or fail it or whatever we're gonna do with it. That's where I'm going.
Well,
Yeah.
in looking at your agenda that you made, I couldn't understand why you changed everything, the floor mat and stuff. I really don't understand it, because, you know, it was pretty, Mr. Hampton did a good job, I believe, when he made this agenda.
So you like the former agenda? the way
I
it was?
absolutely liked it, because
Okay.
the way it was laid out, it was, it's cleaner.
Okay.
I'm sorry that, I think you're right, I think certain things, because we discussed this
Mhm,
in the meeting before we ever got sworn in.
mhm.
And part of it, I think you're right, but if this one wasn't completed the other day, because you never did get public comment at the end.
Yes, I did. I asked for public comment. I asked council if they had any other thing to say, and I asked public, if there was any additional comments,
Okay.
and there was none.
Remember, this was all videoed. That's what, all
Yeah.
these meetings are very important now for documentation.
Are you
for
telling
what
me
we're
that I
doing.
didn't?
I don't know, have you looked at the video?
I know that I did. Thank you.
I agree.
Thank
I
you.
heard it.
So, but thank you for that statement. So that's open for discussion too, then,
Okay.
you know, as far as the agenda.
One person approached me about it, and the one, I like it, but the one piece that, I heard something about was making sure we have the pledge of allegiance in the beginning still.
And we will all the time, except we
Okay.
have people to be
Okay.
sworn in.
Okay, yeah, that was the only comment.
How do you swear people in without having a pledge?
Well, I don't know, perhaps because the sky is blue today. I don't know how to answer your question. I don't know how to answer that.
Well, in the pledge,
Okay,
Do
well,
we
that,
really wanna go down this?
well, I kinda do, because in the pledge, you know,
well, Kathy was not the mayor at that time, Judy was the mayor, so
well,
Judy's,
whoever was in the
I understand,
problem.
but Judy started that meeting, that was not Kathy's decision how that
Sorry.
happened, Judy started that. So, I do like most of the things about the new agenda. I am a little concerned about how easy it's going to be about having public comment on each. Remember how we could change it because Dawn was kind of forgotten, I could see that getting being difficult to keep organized,
Mhm.
having the public comment instead. I kind of liked in the beginning allowing the public to comment on agenda items, that way we hear it up front.
I think one of the reasons why, so maybe we can figure out how to meld that together, because what happens often is if the public comments in the beginning on what we haven't discussed, they're commenting before they've had the benefit of reading, of having the ordinance read, or the resolution read, and the staff report on it.
And I agree with what you're saying, but that could be taken both ways, because we haven't had a chance to hear them as well.
Well, it's in your packet, I mean, they just read the staff report.
No, I mean what the person from the public has to say about an issue or.
So then that would be the next step, would be for have public comment,
Sure.
and then the next step would be our discussion. And then you would have the opportunity to talk about what you just heard of someone mention.
Yeah, so then are you saying that each agenda topic at the end of that agenda topic, when we're done discussing it, should we ask for public comment, or how do you
No, I
want?
think what I'm looking at is just those things that are resolutions and ordinances.
Okay,
So that when it's presented and when we say here is this resolution, and we ask whoever it is to read the bill, do the staff report, and then we can ask for public comment on it. Is there anybody who has anything to say on this specific thing?
okay.
And then council will have the opportunity to do their discussion as well, and then we'll make a motion.
So the public has their opportunity to comment before we vote.
Right, right. And then in the beginning, it's things that are just non-agenda items.
Gotcha.
And then at the end, I just would like to ask anybody who we haven't, if there's anything they wanted to say about it. As long as we have time, now if we're already at the deadline, we might not, but we can move forward. Dawn?
A lot of things are read by title only, so how would you consider that something the public could comment on?
Yeah, and those things, and that doesn't happen very often, that we read by title only. That's a good question. That's a good question, and well worth considering. And I would certainly be willing to, I'm not wedded to this in any way, you know? So I'm certainly willing to eliminate that out of there, and go on.
So I'm curious, is the full agenda packet published, or is it on the website?
No, it's just the agenda.
I think Rick and I talked about that.
The agenda's on the website. It can be made available in paper form if someone wants to come in. Now, I actually don't know, if you come in to pick up the agenda, is it the full packet?
For
Yeah.
counselors, yes,
Yeah,
but
for
not for
counselors,
public.
yeah.
No, I know for counselors, but I mean for public.
Well, it wouldn't be for until it's gone across the diocese.
Right,
And
okay,
before it-
so no, they don't have that opportunity to see that. So I think Don asked that question at the council meeting, you were exactly right, and I was exactly
And
wrong.
but then who's gonna pay for it if the public wants it? You know, that's a lot of paper for us to be printing out.
Well, you don't get it.
They don't get
They
it.
don't get this.
I know, that's what I'm saying, but it sounds like people saying, why can't the public, you know, understand what we're talking about?
They can come, you know, and
Yeah.
to me, through the years, you know.
Wouldn't it be simple if we just put it on the website?
Yes.
That saves us paper and it's a PDF, click for them.
Yeah, put it on the website, so you know,
Now, if
way,
you really want it,
You already wrote it
anybody
down?
that has a thing can print it out and give it to them, you know. That's what happened at the last one, because a
So
lot
we'll
of stuff
put it
was.
as a PDF, we'll put the PDF on the website?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll talk, and I've been talking to Rhett, one of the things that may be a little different is, because this is from my experience, council, and we've also, if you've noticed, we're trying to get the full agenda packet done Thursday,
Yes.
Friday, so you
Thank you.
have it for a
Thank you.
full weekend before the meeting. But we also need to talk about getting you in here before 5 o'clock on Fridays to get it.
Right.
Yeah.
But the other thing that Rick and I have talked about, and my training is, council gets this first,
Yeah.
and then we can publish it full on Monday. And if we can get it to you on Thursday or Friday, and then the public gets the whole thing. And what that does is, this is your agenda, and it gives you a chance to go through it, see what's in here before the phone starts ringing off the hook because somebody
has
in the
a question
community
about
said, what are you people doing? And you have been at work, you've been busy, you haven't had a chance to look through it. So you'll get it first, and then it'll be available to the public, hopefully by Monday or Tuesday.
I really like that. Can I ask so if we get it, you're saying Thursday or Friday?
Thursday or
Or
Friday.
the weekend,
Yeah.
we have all weekend to review it. Let's say
Right.
I read it and go, oh man, I forgot to let Phil know about that one topic. Can that be added Monday morning and be put into the new agenda before it's posted to the public?
Well, I think that's
I'm
one of the
gonna say
things.
maybe.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things we're talking
Yeah.
about here is there has to be a deadline for getting
Exactly.
agenda items
Yeah.
to the city administrator to put on the agenda. We can't
Yeah.
wait until the day before or 2 days before. So,
Yeah.
so for example, if the agenda is to come out on Thursday or Friday, any agenda items you would like on the agenda should be given to the city administrator
By Wednesday,
by Tuesday.
Tuesday. yeah,
Tuesday, no
definitely.
later than Tuesday at 5 o'clock. Because then that only gives them, I mean, in case there is something.
And one of the things that we've talked about is to send council just the cover sheet of what's coming up in the agenda, Tuesday or Wednesday. But, we wanna be flexible, particularly if it's something, if it's something that can wait, then it probably can wait. And I'm gonna also couch it from staff's position. Sometimes we have to bring stuff to you at the council meeting if there's a possible, we need a council resolution for this grant, this emergency spending came in, something broke, and it's gonna cost $20,000, and we need you to say yes. So sometimes, we will bring things in that just, there hasn't, been out there with a lot of time to digest. But for the most part, and what I've talked to staff about is we wanna make sure that you get plenty of time to look through your agenda before the public sees what's going on and before your meeting, so.
So the answer to my question, if I were to get a council packet in my email on Thursday and then I remembered of something I forgot, could I tell you or sometime throughout the window before Monday, 8 a.m., you got an email for me? Could it be changed on just the agenda or added? No. I would have
Mayor's
to
shaking her
wait.
head, and I'll say, it honestly, it depends on what the item is. I mean, it could be something that we really, if it's date sensitive,
Yeah,
has to be passed by a certain date, sure.
It seems like it'd be more appropriate though to ask before Monday morning versus asking at council meeting and having it added on the agenda right then and there.
Well, I think we're trying to build in as much time as we possibly can. That is one of the reasons why it would be nice to have council meet together on that first meeting in the month to talk about agenda items that they are looking forward, that, you know, that they would like to talk and discuss about, you know, changing the application process. You know, we had lots come up that